we're going to skip the next hymn, and so the next thing will be the sermon with Kathy Ageton. And again, we've known Kathy for several years. We have supported her ministry for decades. So at this time, please welcome her to the mic.
Thank you. I'm kind of a mover, so I'm going to take this one. Good morning. You got me? I was trying to remember when we met. Was it at the Rifle Club when you guys started out there? So 1991 or something? Probably back that far. Yeah. So I'm really blessed to be here. We had a blessed time yesterday, having tea and coffee together at Eileen's house. And I've had women's meetings, where I've done all the speaking, and I can tell you, I sure enjoy being with a group of women and everybody talking, everybody sharing, because most times missionaries, ministers, they can share their story, and then everybody knows all about them, or some about them, but you don't get to know the people that you come to or hear their stories, and so we had a really blessed time. I encourage you guys to get involved doing more of that, because the real close relationships are developed. And so I got to go out with them last night too and see where Eileen grew up, and it really blessed me to see and to hear, some of the people that have been born and raised here and have been living here for a long time in this community, because it is a very beautiful community, and I just was touched to see where she lived. I didn't know I had a friend that was so famous, though. No, just kidding. And Marv, of course, equally multi-talented man. But and I could just imagine those hills. Sioux Falls, we're just flat. We're pretty proud of our falls. But those hills, and she was talking about how her and her sisters take off with the horse. They're just running up the hills, and going slower down. I understood that part. But I loved horses myself, so there's just so much. And for a child to grow up here, and these ones that are here today, they really are blessed. And so I'm really blessed to be here. And I have to just briefly share with you my background. I came to know the Lord at Christ for the Nations Bible School back in 1978 when I was 5. No, just lying. No, but anyway, just really shortly after that, I knew I was called to be a missionary. I could hear the Lord's voice in my spirit that I'm calling you to the nations. And I'm like, how Mary must have just thought, what? Me? So I was all excited about it. And I'm like, I'm willing, Lord, I'll go anywhere for you. And then about 3 days later, I got to leave my family. I cried for 3 days close to my parents and my brothers. And I had 2 nieces, 2 nephews. And when I took off for my first, not my first missions trip, but my first full-time, 1993, to Russia, I had a niece and then 3 nieces. One had an arm, one had a leg, one had another leg, and my nephew had my arm. And they were screaming and crying and telling their mom, don't let her go, don't let her go, don't go, Kathy. That's how close I was to, my nieces and nephews. But it was so worth it all to go, and I've been going ever since. But my first missions trip was to Papua New Guinea, went to the Philippines, and then after that I went to Bible school and moved to Russia, lived there for 4 years working with Calvary International in Moscow, Russia. And then it was when I was there in Moscow, I was reading a National Geographic magazine, and I was reading about the Koryak people of Kamchatka, the indigenous people, right? And I was so touched. I'm like, who's going there? Because we kept going to all the Russian villages, and more people were coming in. This is 1993 when, the walls came down, and I want to go to these people. I want to go where people aren't going, and so I connected. There's 5 or 6 groups just within the peninsula of Kamchatka, and I was going, and I got to go more than the pastors because of they were pretty busy, so I could go and I could stay for long periods of time and really connected with them. But in 2014, that door closed for me. I didn't know what I was going to do Because even when I was going to Kamchatka for 15 years, I was taking short-term mission trips to Africa. I was more of an itinerant evangelistic missionary, and so I went to Nigeria, Kenya, Tanzania, and I also went to Haiti, India. I've been to many places, and so in 2014, with that major door to Kamchatka, because I learned Russian too, right? And it's breaking my heart now to see what's happening because I know people in both places. This is what I shared yesterday, and it's hard for all of them. Because the Russians aren't behind it. They're taking the kids off the street to put them in war, and so it's a two-way deal here. And there's only one person winning, so we need to pray. We'll continue to pray for them. But anyway, so as I was in Kamchatka, I got a vision for the indigenous people to connect because I had already been to Alaska ministering, and God was raising up missionaries there, and Russia, and then. So in South Dakota, I've been to some of our places here. We have 9 reservations. I've been to a few of them, and I was like, that'd be so great to just be connecting everybody. And I got to do it in Alaska. One time I brought some Alaska natives over, and they shared their stories with an interpreter, and so many similarities. The fishing, the lifestyle, and of course, all people everywhere. Their hearts are the same as ours. Their needs are the same as ours, and so. When that door closed, I'm like, God, well, I love you. I love the world. I'll go anywhere you want me to go. He said, stay focused on the indigenous people. That's how I felt him leading. So one of my mentors, she connected me with Northwest Territories, Canada, a Bible school up there. And so I flew all the way up there, and I thought, I'm a tough South Dakotan. I'm going to buy me a good goose down coat. And I got off the plane and just went, this isn't going to work. This is the best thing I could find in South Dakota. It was minus 40, minus 50. That's not the wind chill. And so I ministered there, and I got to know one of my my friend and coworker that I travel with now. Up until then, I was traveling on my own, never had been married, and I knew so much in my heart that I was called to missions. And I never met a guy that was that committed or had any desire to be doing what I was doing. So I said, you have my heart, Lord, fulfill me. I'm not going to be another person looking for another half or being empty, lonely. I thank you for fulfilling me. And that's what's happened. Or else, in your time, you bring somebody. I'm open. And I have been so fulfilled. I said, just catapult me because I'm ready. I'm willing, And so that's how it's been for me. But anyway, when I met this, she's Cree native up there in Canada, and her name is Velma. There's a whole group of them and teaching Bible school and bringing in indigenous people from many places in Canada. And I had the honor of teaching there. Well, one morning, we're getting up for coffee, and I'm standing, and Velma was next to me. I briefly had met her before. And she looks at me holding her coffee, and she goes, to the king. And I thought she was speaking her language. So I repeated it. Oh, to the king. Is that your native language? And everybody laughed. She goes, no, to the king. And they would say, instead of the, it was the, or, the shortened versions. So, to the king. They just laughed at me. And ever since then, my great nephew says, after we say the prayer at supper, to the king. He holds up his milk. To the king. We will never forget that story. So since 2016, Dr. Velma, she got her doctorates in theology, which is awesome because in her on her reservation, they put all of their degrees up in the office so the people could see. And it so encourages the kids and the young people to do that. And so now, and we have been to 5 provinces up there, traveled, went to many different places and shared the gospel. And so, but God got a hold of our hearts, and Velma's first, because she was born and raised in Saddle Lake. It's a reservation in Canada, a couple hours from Edmonton. And when she left when she was 18 years old, she said, I am never coming back to this place because it was rough. And she endured everything else, that a lot of young ladies had. And she said, I will never. I'm out of here. Well, the last 2 years, Saddle Lake is all she can think about, prays about, cries about. she said, I got to go to my people. And of course, I prayed about it too, because you don't just do things because everybody else is doing it, and you really have to follow your own heart. And so it was like, yeah, just stay focused. And so we've been ministering in Saddle Lake since 2016, a few other places, but our focus is Saddle Lake. Okay, there's over 12,000 people, no churches. And I was like, because I really have more of a evangelistic heart. And when you hear no churches, 12,000 people, it's really a no-brainer, but God confirmed it in my heart. The door, like Paul said, 1 Corinthians 16, for a great and effective door has been opened to me, and I see it as a great and effective door, an opportunity for me, for us, to be helpful in helping them to raise up a church. Saddle Lake is only one of 3,394 reservations up there in Canada. So let's go ahead and look at the slides. I have some slides for you. So that's Dr. Vilma and I. And you see that poster? That is, to us, we had a friend that developed that, and it's the gospel, in a short message. You can, up in the corner, the right corner, is the Garden of Eden. Then you see the snake. Then you see the cross. And then you see the flower, the blooming, coming to Christ and having your life changed. And you can share that. You can share that in 5 minutes anywhere with people, just thinking about it yourself and how you could share the gospel with someone. And I think that gospel needs to be emphasized now more than ever, because, some people are like, oh yeah, I heard it. No, it's still the power of God. And it's still the message that works in the heart of people to fill that void, to see that, yeah, this is for me too. My life can be changed. But I've taught it for 2 weeks in Kamchatka, Russia. Just redemption, the gospel. And you literally, from day to day, you see lives change. Some of them coming in with their heads down, and then after a week, they kind of walk with a skip in their step, and it's because of the good news. It is good news. We don't shake our fist and point fingers, but we can exemplify it in our own lives, and we can keep sharing the good news because they need good news. So I think we can move on. And so we've been ministering in Alaska, mostly in Southeast Alaska, to remote villages there. And I've been doing that since 1999, basing in Ketchikan and going out to these places. Next one. And the main places are Metlakatla, Alaska. If you want to look that up, there's a wonderful story about that, and a man who was living on the Metlakatla of Canada, and the Tsimshian people were fighting each other, killing each other way back in the late 1800s. And he had come from Europe, but he really had a heart for the people. He learned skills so he could teach them, not only share the gospel, teach them the word, but also how to work, and how to build. And he just had such a heart for the people. And you got to look that up. The last name is Duncan. I think they called him Father Duncan. But so he decided to leave, and he said, anybody want to go? He took 800 people and went to an island in Alaska, and they called that Metlakatla. And so Velma and I have had the honor to be there, because you do have to get permission from the leaders, the elders and chiefs in places. You just can't move in and go. And this couple, I call him young, he's 76 up in that picture. He's always served his community doing maintenance. And when a pastor was gone, he would fill in all these pulpits in Metlakatla. Well, one church, they didn't have anybody. And they asked him, after all these years, can you step in? So he got the title of pastor. And his wife is so precious. She thought women couldn't say anything or do anything. And we did a study on women and self-esteem. And she's up giving longer exhortations than her husband. It's really exciting. She wants to do women's Bible studies. It's just the word does bring life and freedom to people. In Cake, Alaska, we have to travel by ferry there, which we do enjoy doing, even though the rooms aren't super comfortable. It's still really quiet. You can't use your cell phones. And so, you can pray. We've seen whales as we travel, but we have gotten to know so many people. They're so precious to us. We really pour our lives in there when we go. But mostly, like I said, these last 2-3 years have been focused on Saddle Lake. But this is more people out there in Cake, Metlakatla. When we do teachings and they like finish a course, we like to give them certificates. And because some of them really would like to go to a Bible school somewhere and they're not able to. So, and this group here, those boys in the middle, they didn't even know. I mean, like Genesis from Matthew. What, like where do we start? Where do we read? How do we? And they didn't want to. Let's go to this book and let's look at this verse. They were so embarrassed, but we made it easy that we, it wasn't embarrassing. Let's just share together. Now they're just, flipping through the pages. They know their way around, but that's how it is. It's just hungry souls out there, and it's such an honor. Next. So we do take books, we take Bibles, number one, and we do have hearts to reach out to the community. In most of these places, people just don't come to church. You got to go out. And so they had all these toys that hadn't been opened and food, and we just took it out on the table. We made cookies, we made sandwiches, we got some pop, and there were like 3 tables. We lined them up and put everything out there, and we went to Walmart and loaded up our carts, and we made a sign and said, we have free gifts. Come and get them. They're like, no, come on, how much do we owe you? No, we're doing this for free. Take what you want. And one young man, a teenager, it was a study Bible. He picked it up and he goes, this is for free? Yeah. He started crying. And so it really touched their hearts Jesus said, you freely have been given, so freely give. Because you really pray for creative ideas. How do we do this? And, no one's coming. So you go out to them and you reach out and you get to talk in a different environment. And so it's wonderful. Next. So this is Saddle Lake. They've never had a Christian conference. So we had one, and then a few months later we had another one. It's indoors. They're more used to tent meetings outside in the summers, and that's about all. And so it's been awesome to help them to build some foundation, and then one day to see them, because we know that it's going to happen from within. And I know that's God's heart. He's going to raise up leaders from within the communities. And there are a lot of people that just don't want to hear from another white person. And in many ways it's understandable. Many ways it's not. But to see that happening, they're like, wow, okay, if so-and-so overcame the drugs, the alcohol, the abuse, I can do it too. And it's starting to happen. Velma's dad is up in the corner standing next to her there. And we've been staying in his house when he goes, the house that she was born and raised in. And we're praying because it's not in very good condition. And they will, for the elders, they get them on a list and they will come in and restore the homes for them. Next. Oh, this is just one of the studies we did. Next. Yeah, so like I told you, I think it's the same way here. I could be wrong, but the indigenous people are really used to summer camp meetings. And it's outdoors. And it's so, that's what they love. And I know, even with teepees in the past, that's something that they do enjoy. So they go to tent meetings. They'll drive for hours to go to a tent meeting, outdoor tent meeting. And when it's winter, though, you can't have the camp meeting outside. So we did the first indoor camp meeting in their gym, and that it's been so successful. But it's the same place where they have memorials. And so if you're scheduled, someone dies, you get booted out. But it's okay, because I have so learned some of these situations are just they're unavoidable. And I was like, why aren't they coming to our meetings? And some of them, and what's the reason for this or that? And then you find out later the reasons, and there's many. So last summer, we went for 2.5 months, and we were ministering there. But a year ago, one of our friends, her son died because of alcohol. And then so she's been helping the daughter, who's also been kind of on drugs, watching the grandkids. and they moved to a different house. No, I think they're in the same house, but there was a drive-by shooting, and it just about missed their youngest daughter, the gunshots in the home. And so there was holes in the house, and you guys, I don't even have to tell you, you're familiar with all the things that go on. That's not why I'm here to dig that up. But so they moved out of that house, and then so my friend, the grandma, went and got all the blankets, all the clothes, everything to wash for them and take them to the place they were staying. They're probably staying with her other relatives. And we went, and there were 32 bags of clothes and blankets that we were helping her with for hours at the laundromat to get ready to take to, oh, keep going, because I think we might have a picture of that. Yeah, that's it right there. I'm helping her fold a blanket right there. 32 of them were like, oh my gosh, and she was going to do it herself. We heard about it through somebody else, and we just ran there. It's like, Mavis, you don't need to be doing this. And then then her sister, she moved into a house after coming off of drugs and alcohol. She's doing great. She was blessed with a home, but it needed to be, restored. And so we painted and did the flooring and really helped her with her house. And then she goes, hey, why don't we have home meetings here? It's kind of like the Lord used that to open her heart, to see the need. So it isn't always about preaching or teaching. It is about serving and making yourself available. And so last summer we were going to be there for 2.5 months. So we're going to stay in Saddle Lake, and we're going to reach out to people, ask them to come. We're going to rent the hall, or we're going to rent another facility, maybe the gym. Nothing was open, and some of the reasons were because some of them are 100% into their own religion, and that's what they prefer. They don't want anything else. So we're all of a sudden one day, Velma said, we're going to buy a tent. So we went to Edmonton, got a tent, and then the people started coming. And we had a conference about grief and suicide prevention, and we filled the tent. One of her relatives had dropped the seed when we had served at a memorial service, which was a very eye-opening experience for me. I've never seen anything like it, the way they, did things and everything. But after they went through all of their process of how they do a memorial service, at the very end, one of the elders stands up and he says, these deaths, because it's young people, and they're, drive-by shootings, drugs, they're like, these deaths are breaking our hearts. It was a full gym. And he's just puzzled. He's like, what are we going to do? This is just so sad. And this is what he said. Let's face it. Let's just face it, folks. We're lost. That hit my heart. I was holding back tears, because they, many of them are realizing, okay, some of these things that we do, it's not really working. And there was a time where they were more open to Christ, to Christianity, to the gospel. And when I heard that, it's like, no, we're not done here. We can reach out. And they were just like, let's just face it, we're lost. Oh, that touched my heart so much. It's all about, as following Jesus, following Christ, he said, I will make you to be fishers of people. And that's what we're called to do. And there's nothing more fulfilling than taking a person's hand and putting it in the hand of the Lord. So we don't need to shy away from those opportunities. Next. Yeah, so there's more of our meetings in the homes. We can go on. Yep, and this is some of the children we went to. We had a birthday party for Jesus a few years ago. It was really fun. And so more home meeting pictures. Go ahead. And this is so much a part of what we truly believe. We bring Bibles. We can't leave a place. If someone doesn't have a Bible, they need to have a Bible. And we do studies with them, but also we guide them. Here, start here. And we call. We do, since 2022, we've been doing videos on Facebook and just any way we can to reach these people. We do FaceTime, and we love it. It's as much as I not really, I'm more of a people person. I understand how God can use that, and it's been very effective. We've reached way up into British Columbia and remote areas in Canada, and there's been some of my friends from Far East Russia, from just different locations that they have tuned into that too. So, but it's that's what you leave them with. You never leave empty-handed. You give them the gospel seeds. You also, there's so many books that are recommended to give, and perhaps ones that you've read. And if it works for you, it'll work for them. And we try to keep it pretty simple as well. Next. So that's the end of the slideshow, but I want to let you know we're leaving in November, going back up to Saddle Lake, and we want to have a very big Christmas children's event, an all-day Christmas for the children. And we've always ministered to children, but we want this to be big, and we want to have gifts and presents, and we always buy brand new and just make it a big thing for them and really bless them. Because last year, Velma was up there ministering. I wasn't there. I was at home with my family, but she asked, she said, the kids came to one of the meetings, and she goes, so, it was after Christmas. So, what'd y'all get for Christmas, kids? And all of them went, there was probably 12, 13 kids there. They looked at her like, they didn't get anything. She's like, oh, why did I ask that question? You know, so she herself went and got what she could and brought it to them. But so we do want to make it special. In 2 years, when we had that other, we called it birthday party for Jesus. But anyway, we gave good books, storybooks, like shared this morning on the stories of the Bible. And there was like a 5-year-old boy there. He grabbed that book. You would have think he had gotten the biggest toy any kid could have wanted at his age, right? He's like, oh, and he's looking at it. His eyes are big. He's looking at the pages, and he held it like this. This is North America. This is, even we've had that experience in places that we've gone in Alaska. These kids now are not hearing anything in a lot of places, and it's not just reservations, it's everywhere. So how much more is the gospel needed more than ever before, and for us to be those lights to them? And so that's what we're planning on doing, is doing a really big one this time. And we'll be up there, we'll be doing home groups, we'll be doing in the gym meetings, and we reach out to other communities too. When we had one last winter, these conferences, there were many people from other reservations right around the community as well. So it's been going good. We are seeing momentum, and like I said, it's a big, effectual door in a place of 12,000 people with no church. I could be going to many places, and I'm never going to retire. So until the Lord tells me to redirect, that's where I'm going to be going. So definitely be praying for me in November when we go back up there. And we also are going to have a very large we're going to invite everybody in Saddle Lake and the women in the surrounding community, and as many women as can come. It's going to be a time of refreshing for them, because like I already said, the grandmas are raising the grandkids, and they're my age or younger, and they have a heart for the Lord. They have a heart to do other things, but they can't. As you can understand, no grandma is going to let them to a stranger, go to a stranger, or so that I understood. I'm like, why doesn't Mavis come? I mean, we love her. We know that God has a call on her life. And then I'm like, I'm not Mavis. I don't have kids and grandkids. What would I do? So I believe God can make it so that, because she's got a call on her life, He can do all things so that she can fulfill that desire in her heart and still take care of her family. And there's abusive situations. There's so many things. It's like, okay, women, come and spend a day with us, be refreshed, and we're going to load you. We're going to bless you. We're going to give. And like we had a conversation yesterday, like when we give, we don't have to worry about where it goes, because somebody's going to end up with it, because you don't, you're like, okay, are they going to sell it, or but like most of these women that do come, we know them pretty well now, and but it's just like I had shared with the kids, it's just good to give and share and give. And so that's that. We haven't done anything that big yet, but we are planning on it, and we want to do it right and really bless them. God hasn't forgotten them, and they have felt forgotten in a lot of places. And it's in some ways it's kind of conflicting in your heart because of some things that, choices that are made. But God's not. He's not. He still loves them, and the Lord isn't going to return until this particular indigenous people group worldwide comes along with the bride. Because I've been to Africa, I've been to these countries, Haiti, India, and every place. There's pastors, strong pastors and leaders. There's people involved in the government. There's people that are doctors and lawyers, and then it's happening with with our reservations with the indigenous people. But God wants to raise them up, and the more of them that come forth, the more that are going to follow as well, I believe. And so it's been an honor to share my heart and ministry with you today. And I really thank Eileen and Marvin, too, for all these years of sticking by with me. Thank you.